So this last week or two in Lexington, and really not just Lexington, but around some parts of the United States, it's been a little warmer. It was really cold and wet in January here. The Northeast has been getting hammered. Some strange weather has been going on in the New England area, and it's just been a little odd. But a week or two, it got a little warm. Here in Lexington, it got up to probably 65 or 70 degrees. And I even have a photo on my phone of it. I unfortunately saw some lawn care companies out spreading fertilizer. And it got me thinking about, what's the mentality of homeowners and lawn care operators right now in the United States about wanting to get out and do stuff, wanting to get out and spray pre-emergence, and wanting to get out and spread fertilizer and so forth. Just because it got warm last week, warm being 60, 65 degrees, it was very nice here, doesn't mean that the turf is ready to receive fertilizer or the germination of weeds is forthcoming yet. So for your pre-emergent applications is where I'm going with this primarily, but also for nutrient applications. We want to base a lot of that decision as to when we go out on soil temperatures. That's the metric that is generally most well correlated with seed germinations. Turfgrass coming out of dormancy and growth and so forth is largely associated with soil temperatures as opposed to air temperatures or daily temperatures of the air, whatever the case might be. So I wanted to show you guys what I do whenever I'm, feeling like, oh, is it time to get out there yet? I don't know. Have I mowed it yet? And I haven't mowed it yet. Well, maybe I should wait. Some people use other indicator species of plants, which there's documentation on, like tulips and daffodils and, red buds and all sorts of different plants that tend to come out and start growing at a certain time of year. And there are some actual papers that's showing that when these indicator species begin to change, is you should expect to see this in weed germination or turfgrass growth and so forth. Those sorts of things, there is some validity to that. But what I want to show is where you go find soil temperatures. You say, okay, Travis, soil temperature should be 55 degrees or 50 degrees before we really start spending some serious time. Okay, now we need to get out there and start spraying stuff and spreading stuff. And then, but how do you go find that? Some people may not even know how to go find what the soil temperature is right now. And more importantly than that, what historically has been the date where soil temperature goes up above 55 degrees in your specific area. So I wanted to go over that real briefly. So if you go to the internet and you just Google like National Soil Temperature Database or National Historical Soil Temperatures, you're going to come up with a lot of options to pick from. There's in the United States, there's a series of weather stations all over the nation, thousands of these, literally thousands of weather stations that the states and the federal government have access to that they, pull data from. For example, in Kentucky, there's a network called the Mesonet. In Florida, there's the FAWN, which is the Florida Area Weather Network. There's one in Oklahoma. There's one in North Dakota. They're all over the place. But how do you go find this stuff? So what you do is when you Google soil temperature or historic soil temperature, or if you're in Nebraska soil temperature, you're going to come up with some link. And what I wanted to show you is some of those links. And then really what I end up doing, which is just easier, to be frank, than going through all this. When I pull up the Mesonet in Kentucky, it looks like this. And this is the Kentucky Mesonet through Western Kentucky University, which is about 2.5, 3 hours west of me here, down near Bowling Green, Kentucky. But that location has a database, or it amasses data from various locations, and it comes up with graphs like this. And what I'm looking at for those listening is a graph that has dates like February 20th, 21st, 22nd, and so forth on the x-axis, and then soil temperature on the y-axis going from 30 to 62. And you see a bunch of different lines on here and so forth. Well, there's an elevator button here that you can't see it on your screen. For some reason, it never shows up, but it has all the counties of Kentucky, and you can select whatever county you want. And I live in Fayette County, Kentucky. So you can select Fayette County, you can select soil moisture, soil temperature, and soil moisture precipitation, whatever you want to look at. And you can select the time interval for what you're interested in. And if you're interested in metric units, you can select metric for Celsius and temperature. But this graph here, to me, I don't use this, just to be honest. I use Mesonet because you can actually pull the numbers when I was publishing work. You can actually pull data. And I will do that for publication purposes. But if I just want to know rough numbers, hey, what date am I going to, is the temperature going to go above 55 degrees? I won't use this, but I'm letting you know that it does exist. You can go there and look and see what the soil temperature is. And on this graph, there's a bunch of lines. It's really hard to figure out what's what. But what these lines are just different depths of soil temperature. And the soil temperature at 40 inches, for example, that's not very useful for me and for you. So I'll remove that from the graph. And 20 inches, I'll remove that. You can click on this little legend down here and remove that. Soil temperature at 8. So I'm just really interested in either 2 or 4 inches in depth. And you can see last week, you saw, as I mentioned, the temperature got up about 65, 70 degrees, and the soil temperature went up to about 50, whatever this is, 52 degrees at 2 inches, and about 50 degrees at 4 inches. And so if we're waiting to apply pre-emergent herbicides, or we're waiting to apply fertilizers, and you're going to use soil temperatures as an indicator for that, which I wouldn't use an indicator for that necessarily for fertilizers, but because you can just kind of wait and see when the turfgrass is growing and then start your cycles. But for pre-emergent herbicides, where you want to get the pre-emergent on the ground before you actually see the weed, this is probably more useful to you. And usually, and I can show those publications if you want to, but usually the temperature is between 50 and 55 degrees is we want to have the pre-emergent on the ground before that. You know, I'm not a weed biologist, but I can go in that literature and show you why we use that 55 degrees temperature as a rough estimate as to when we would expect to see germination in some weed species. But you can see it went up, and now we're back down here a week later or 2 or 3 days later, whatever it is, and the temperature's back down into the mid 40s, 43, 44, where it was up near 50. Okay, so although it got warm there for 2 or 3 days, and you feel like, hey, I want to go out and start, mowing, or I want to go out and start spreading fertilizer or spraying pre-emergent herbicides or whatever, the risk is that you spray out that pre-emergent herbicide too early, and the efficacy of that 2 or 3 week window that you have on that herbicide application or month or whatever, that efficacy is going to start to fade before the weeds start to germinate. And you don't want that, because you end up losing some of the value in that application, right? So hold off on these applications. I know you might be antsy and you're being kept up all winter and you want to get your crew out, or you want to go out and start spraying the stuff out and, getting the applications going. But you're still, at least here in Lexington, you're still at least 3 or 4 weeks away. And I'm going to show you how I know that. Okay. But this graph is hard to see it because you can't see historic dates, right? You just see what's going on in the last week or two. Now I can go back in the data and pull all that stuff, but it's not easy to see. Okay. There's other websites like, for example, the one in Cornell that will show what's going on today. Okay. So they have soil temperature here and growing degree days and all sorts of information, dandelion recommendations and so forth. But you can see through Cornell, basically the entire Northeast United States, all the way up into Maine, down into West Virginia, what happened yesterday, February 25th, 2024, in terms of the 2-inch soil temperatures. So here's another website. So if you're in that particular area of the country, this would be an area that I would consider, a website I would consider using if you're wanting to kind of get a ballpark idea of what's going on with soil temperatures. However, one of the more useful ones, as is usually the case with stuff online, is Purdue. Okay. Purdue, for some reason, has got it figured out, where the rest of us, I don't know, we're lollygagging around and we haven't quite figured out how to do it right. So we need to follow what Purdue's doing, apparently. But Purdue has a website, and the title is, actually, I'll put this in chat so everybody has it if you're interested. The website is mrcc.purdue.edu. And it's MRCC stands for Midwestern Regional Climate Center. Make sure we're good here. Okay. And on this website, they're going to have like the mid-central, north-central states in the United States. And they're going to have a lot of good information on here. So I'm going to walk you through here, and you can see what I think is a little bit more useful information to me. And then I'm going to show you one more at the very end. You can see various tabs here: Midwest Climate Watch, custom chilling hour tools, all sorts of data, meteorological information. Okay. Wind chill climatologies, snowfall, all these things. But what I'm interested in is when you come down here at the bottom, it says highlighted products, and there's a window here called soil temperature climatology. This is deceptively valuable. It doesn't look that particular I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem like it'd be that valuable, but I'll show you exactly how valuable it is. When you click on that window or box, actually, I think I already had it up. You're going to come to a map of the United States. And this map contains North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, down into Kansas, over to Kentucky and Ohio, and then all the states above it, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan, and Iowa, and all those, Illinois, Indiana. Okay, Missouri. So it has all those states. And they're colored in. So if you live in one of those states, what you can do is, I live in Kentucky, so I'm going to go down to Kentucky, and I'm going to scroll in here, and as I scroll in, it's going to change into like a county resolution of the map. And what you can't see, hang on a second, what you cannot see, because I have not changed this window yet. What you can't see, well, I'll move it over here, is over on the right, it says select threshold degrees in Fahrenheit. And right now it's set at 50 degrees. You can, this window you can see, you can change this degree, this select threshold to whatever degree you want, or not any degree, but a variety of degrees, 30, 32, and so forth. And you can select 50, 55, or 60 degrees Fahrenheit as the threshold. So whatever you want to look at, right? So let's select 55. And you're going to see the map will change colors. And it's changed colors. And so now I'll adjust this window back again so you can see a little bit clearer. I'm going to zoom in a little closer here to where I am in Lexington to give you an idea as to the value of this particular tool. So bravo, Purdue. If I go into Lexington, which is right here, you can kind of make it out a little bit here, Lexington, Kentucky, and you hover your mouse over it, there's going to be a little pop-up window. And that pop-up window has 5 variables or 5 dates. The earliest date is April 17th. The early date is April 23rd. The average date, it has the late date and the latest date. And that's the date in that particular area where the soil temperature exceeded 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So the earliest date was April 17th. And they have early date would be April 23rd. And then the average date would be the 1st of May, basically. Okay, the 1st of May in that particular area is where this Purdue website is saying has historically been on, and I don't know how many years they're averaging this over. I don't know the earliest date. I mean, I don't know the length of time, whether it's a 10-year average or 20-year average or whatever, but it's saying that the average date where in Lexington, where the soil temperature goes above 55 is May 3rd. So if I'm looking at that, I want to have my pre-emergent down before that. Okay. For sure. I don't want to wait until May 3rd because there's going to be some germination of some weeds. So that's one way to look at it. Okay, you can go to any county, Chicago, you can go up into wherever you want to go into, and you can kind of see, you can get a ballpark idea. I would say this is probably a bit liberal in its estimation. I think, the 1st of May, the average 1st of May date is probably a little late because I can go pull some data from another location and find it's probably a little earlier than the 1st of May, which is what I'm going to do right now. But that's one way to do it. But really, one of the easiest ways to do it, to find soil temperature, I don't know how where they pull these data from. So I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend it fully until I have more information on exactly how they do it. But Syngenta has a website called greencastonline.com, and in there they have some tools, and one of those tools is soil temperature. Okay. So and that's what I would recommend, looking at, because you can select any city in the United States, and they default to Greensboro, North Carolina, which is where their headquarters are. And you can go through here, and it has the what's going on right now in 2024, the 5-year average and the 10-year average. Okay, for Greensboro, North Carolina, between January and the end of February 2024. Okay, so let's just say you go to Lexington, Kentucky. So I'll type in Lexington in this location search, and it'll pull up Lexington, Kentucky, and it'll give me what's going on in 2024, the 5-year average and the 10-year average. I'm not so much interested in the 5-year average, so I'll click this and it'll eliminate that from the screen. So now I'm looking at the 10-year average and then what's going on this year from the beginning of the year. but that still doesn't really give me what I'm really looking for. And what I'm looking for is when historically has that temperature gone above 55. So what you can do is you can click on this date range, and you just click previous year. There's last 30 days, current month, current year, and then previous year. If you click on previous year, it's going to pull up a map of what happened last year, but also the 10-year average across months of the year. Okay, I'm going to eliminate the 5-year average so it's easier to see. I can even eliminate 2023. And this is the 10-year average for Lexington, Kentucky soil temperature. And you can just move your mouse along here, and it gives you the date and it gives you the temperature. So if I just keep moving my mouse along here, and it comes to 55, 56 right in here. Okay, so it crossed 55 on a 10-year average at about the beginning of April. Okay, that's the 10-year average. So if I looked at the previous one from Purdue, it said the beginning of May. This one says the beginning of April. I don't know where either one of these are pulling, the length of time they're pulling the averages from. But you can see after, on this Syngenta website, you'll see after, say, the 1st of April, the temperature remains above 55 degrees all the way until probably looks like November 1, around the 1st of November. So, assuming that they're pulling these data from valid sources, I would tend to rely upon this particular. I don't endorse Syngenta. I don't get paid by them, but I like the way this is because it's very easy to see. You can move your mouse. You can see the temperatures. You can see the dates. You can see when it goes above a threshold temperature. You don't need to know 50 degrees or 20 degrees or whatever. You can just move your mouse and it'll tell you the degree it is on average at that month for the last 10 years. Okay. So I use that if I'm looking, hey, what is the temperature? What's the historic? When has it historically gone above 55? Well, it looks like the beginning of April. So if that's the case, then I'd want to go out before then, a little bit before then, to get my pre-emergence out. And it's probably going to be about the same time, maybe a little bit early. It depends on what's going on with the grass that time of year in terms of growth, but I want to make sure my fertilizer's out too. So you can use that if you want to use that. Or there's another option. You can do really was what I would, the most simple homeowner way to do it, lawn care operator way to do it. It's more generalized. So you can, it's like ballpark ranges, but they're pretty, reliable. And that is turf calendar maps from the extension websites that I just showed you how to find using the link in the chat today. Okay. And then the link to this video, there's a link to all the extension websites. And most extension offices and turf extension programs will have a turf care calendar. This is the one for Kentucky. Okay. And I can't mark on this. I didn't know that. Okay. But on this PDF, which is AGR 55, written by Dr. Munshaw, you're going to see management practices, and you're going to see each month of the year, and you're going to see the best time to do the action and the second best time to perform the action. So for example, for pre-emergent herbicides, if I'm looking to apply a pre-emergent herbicide for my grassy weeds in Lexington, Kentucky, or in Kentucky, I'm going to be looking at doing that between March and April. Now remember, I said the one website said that the temperature went above 55 the 1st of May. Another one said it was the 1st of April. So, we'll have to, if you really want to know for sure, you're going to have to pull the temperature from the nearest available weather station and pull the historic data, which I've done numerous times, but you can pull it all up, the actual data, do an average over the last 10 to 20 years and see when the average is at that specific location, and then see what it is today. And you can kind of see historically at your location. So when you're dealing with the entire state of Kentucky, it might be the 1st of April, it might be the 1st of May when it goes above 55 degrees. If you're in Western Kentucky, it's probably earlier. If you're in Eastern Kentucky, it's probably later. But this calendar has the months of March and April colored in green as the best time to apply your pre-emergent herbicide applications in the spring. So there's a reason why that exists in March and April, is because we understand that, or Dr. Munshaw understood, that weed seeds tend to germinate at this temperature, and we knew historic data that included those temperatures, and we want to get the pre-emergent herbicides out a little bit before that, okay? Notice the nitrogen fertilizer application recommendations are also around that same time, March and April, but it's a secondary best time that he listed here, which I would agree with. Generally, the better time is in September and October. Okay, so those are a few ways that I would, whoops, I'm not even on here. Let me back up. I'm sorry, I get confused on what I'm doing. But the pre-emergent herbicide applications are here. But guys, the guys that were watching were thinking I'm crazy. I wasn't on the screen. But the March and April for the pre-emergent herbicides for this area. So go to Purdue or go to Ohio State or go to Wisconsin or go to UMass or go to University of Tennessee or Florida, whatever. And generally they're going to have similar calendars like this. And if you want basic, general information as to when you can consider applying these particular products, these are, decent ways to do that.